Welcome to the Retrospection section, where we review writing we were once proud of. I'm Max.
I'm Rava.
And we love to make fun of ourselves. This episode begins a new trend, where we read the piece in its entirety, much like a shitty audiobook, pausing along the way to point out some especially noteworthy moments. There's just some stories where you can't skip a single thing. Today, we will continue reviewing Max's Generation series, a collection of 10 books, not including the prequel, which we don't talk about, following the century-long adventures of one family over 3 generations. This installment, the 4th, is called The Plan. Remember Corinne? Of course you do. You can't just forget Corinne. She comes back in this one to join her granddaughter Kiera and her friends to fight the evil president. 12-year-old me thought, hey, wouldn't it be unique if the president of the United States was a tyrant who wanted to repress individual expression unless it conformed to his narrow-minded view of the microcosm in which we live? Even back then, I shat allegory. Since we and our fictional friend Corinne are about to perish at the hands of a dictator, why don't you sit back, relax, and fight fascism with us? What we're gonna do is we're gonna, switch off reading chapters to add some interest.
Let's hit it.
Prologue. Sir, said the youngest bounty hunter, I didn't quite hear you. Did you say riders? Riders they are, the leader said. They should be close by. Great. What's wrong, Monroe? One of the older bounty hunters jeered. Afraid they might kill you too? Shut up, said Monroe. Okay, Monroe, you go with Reeves here. Johns, you go with Martin. Spread out. Meet you back here in 4 hours, the leader ordered. Oh, sir, the youngest one said. What is it, Monroe, the leader said. Is that a meteor, sir?
The answer is yes. That is a meteor, sir.
Meteor's my favorite plot device. Okay,
right.
do you want to read this one, or do you want me to?
No,
Okay.
I got it.
Go for it.
I just got a comment on what was it with you and meteors.
I don't know. I just used them as a plot device. Oh, is it boring? Time to throw a meteor at them.
For being such a good, world-ending tool, they never actually end the world. They just kind of happen.
This particular meteor does end the world. It just takes a few books.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in book 7, the world has ended.
You know what's interesting? There's an actual published book series about a meteor or something knocks the Earth away from
I know. I've read it.
Or it knocks the moon away.
Yeah. What is it called? Oh...
All That Remains?
All that is left behind. I almost wanted to say The Last of Us, and I was like, that's not it.
Bear with me, readers. We've got to figure it out.
Novels where,
moon
Earth... No, moon gets
out
closer.
Of orbit.
Life as we knew it! Oh my god. Anyway, back to reading. We found it.
If anyone wants a book where a meteor, knocking the moon out of orbit is actually handled somewhat more reasonably than this, then check out Life as We Knew It.
It's
Chapter
hella more
1.
reasonable. Okay.
It hurtled through the atmosphere so fast it looked like it was going slowly. I let this happen, Kiera said out loud as she watched the meteor coming straight for the Earth. She hopped down from the top of the tree she was watching from to glare at her companion.
Returning character.
Yep. Trees, returning characters.
Oh, wait, okay, we have to specify this. So there's a character named Ryder.
Oh, geez. Ryder. His name is Ryder. He is a writer.
Yes.
Which was a horrible decision.
Yeah, in writing, it passes. In practice, not so much.
Anyway, Ryder, give me an estimate,
man.
She said, glancing intensely at a handheld computer. Oh, Ryder said. Of course. Don't waste my time, Kiera told him. Whatever's left of it. Exactly 7 minutes until it hits, Ryder said. Great, Kiera said. My last few minutes on Earth, and I have to spend them lost someplace in the wilderness. She laughed bitterly. At least I'm not alone. Are you serious? Ryder asked Kiera. What do you think? Of course I'm serious, Kiera shouted at him, and Ryder drew back. Look, Ryder, she said sincerely this time. I know how you've always felt about me. I just wanted to say I never felt that way about you, but before we both die. And she kissed him.
Playa.
That's just wrecking.
I know.
We're about to die, and I don't like you.
I don't
so
like
you know.
But I'm gonna kiss
wow.
you for... Why? I just don't understand why I even did this. I'm gonna kiss you for my own pleasure, but
You didn't even have to tell him that you didn't like him. The world's gonna end. It's not like he's ever gonna know.
I don't understand. Anyway.
You could have let him die happy. If you don't like me, Ryder started as soon as they parted, then why do you just kiss me? Drama! Anyway. We're about to be blown up, that's why, Kiera answered. So it doesn't matter. Oh, Ryder said, and as he finished that despondent little syllable, the meteor hit, and Kiera and Ryder were thrown to the ground.
Oy vey. There's just no explaining this. Chapter 2. Kira rolled over. Ryder? She asked weakly. Something white was falling on her, and she felt cold. Snow? In the middle of summer? Right here, Ryder said from about 3 feet away. Guess what? Kira said, smiling. What? Ryder asked. We're still alive, Kira told her. Ryder looked around and looked down at his clothes. Darn right, he said. Is it snowing? Kira looked at the sky, squinting. Looks like it, she said. I wonder why. Ryder shrugged, looking uncomfortable. Kira rolled her eyes. You're embarrassed, aren't you? Look, there was nobody around, and even if there was, nobody would dare come near a Ryder. There was a nearly inaudible rustle in a bush nearby. New character! All right, come on out, said Kira. A kid came out. He was about Kira's age, 16, maybe a year older. He had dark curly hair, which was pulled back in a tiny ponytail. He was wearing a long black trench coat, black boots, and dark sunglasses. Wow, Kira said. What an unpleasant surprise. Another person to babysit. The kid shook his head and crossed his arms. Do you know what just happened? Kira asked. Yeah, the kid said. A meteor hit us and knocked us about 2 light years away from the sun. But don't listen to me. I exaggerate. Okay, pause for a moment because... Yes,
sat down and tried to figure out how far that was.
It was 10 trillion kilometers, which is a few good AUs. An astronomical unit is 93 million miles. Anyway, but to be fair, Chiron does qualify. Oh, his name is Chiron. I blew it. He does say job. He exaggerates. So,
Clearly.
We can't take that at his word. Kira laughed. Whatever. So that's why it's snowing? Yep, said the kid. Oh, by the way, I'm Chiron Monroe. He bowed. Kira giggled. Kira Brophy, at your service, she said. Well, would you like to save the world with us?
I love how quickly she goes from great, another person to babysit to, so you want to help us save the world?
Yeah, super low qualifications. But to be fair, everybody in this series, is I'm gonna hate her forever, and then, a page later is I'm in love with you. And
That's
that happens
true.
in this one, too, as we have found out.
That's
Chapter
true.
3.
Ooh, brr, said Kristoff maniacally, just the way I like it. His henchman, Tegan, nodded in agreement. It's perfect. Okay, I gotta stop. Tegan sounds to me like just a white girl that shows up 10 minutes late with Starbucks. I'm having trouble imagining that as a henchman name, because I, knew people, in high school, there were people, named that, stuff like that. So, the henchman just turns up 10 minutes late with Starbucks. Oh, yes, Kristoff said. Oh, yes. One of the many perfect things to come. I've got a villain voice for Kristoff.
Amazing. It's wonderful. Yeah, so Kristoff is the president of the United States.
Not to be confused with Kristoff from Frozen, who ironically would like it cold because he's an ice seller. Anyway. Snow is getting annoying, Kira proclaimed. Chiron nodded, and Ryder didn't say a word. Who do you work for? Kira asked, trying to make conversation. It's a group of bounty hunters, Chiron answered. Why were you hiding behind a bush? Kira asked skeptically.
'Cause I'm a new character.
I was in training at the time of the meteor strike, Chiron said, that seemed to change his mind. Actually, I was kind of looking for, some people. Have you seen them? It's kind of important. Who are you looking for? Kira asked. Maybe we can help. Okay, well, they're supposed to be about 16. My height, a girl and a boy, and some kind of super beings. Writers? Chiron stopped dead in his tracks. Kiela?
It's Kiera, but I accidentally...
Kiera waved her hand in front of his face. Hello in there, she said. Chiron snapped out of it. He gulped. You're the people I was looking for, he said. And, writers killed my parents. Kiera stopped acting silly. I'm sorry, she said, almost sincerely enough. Almost. Chiron looked up. Forget it, he shouted. No matter what you say or do, I won't ever forgive you guys. That's some character development. Chiron, I'm not like that, Kira started. I said forget it, Chiron said again, and then took a deep breath. Where are we going? He asked through clenched teeth. Kira pointed south. We're headed towards the nearest town. Weed. The town's called Weed? Chiron asked, and then smacked his forehead. Don't make me talk. I'm mad at you. Kira didn't laugh. You're more than mad, she said, trying to show Chiron that all writers weren't the same. I can understand that, but I'm seriously not like the writers that... I said, forget it! Chiron yelled, then sat down on a nearby rock, quickly took off his sunglasses, and cradled his head in his hands. Kira sat down next to him and Ryder next to her. They all sat there in the snow for the longest time, until Kira, being a writer, got restless and got up and paced around. We've got to get going, she told Ryder and Chiron. The meteor that hit today was sent by an evil mastermind named Christoph Merck, otherwise known as Mr. President, or Christoph Merck of the United States. Chiron didn't look up, but Kira could tell he was amazed because he gave a little jump. Chiron, look at me, Kira ordered him. Through the intensifying snow came a muffled, no. Why not? Kira asked. Have you got something to hide? Maybe, said Chiron's muffled voice. What? Kira asked. I'm not in the mood for 20 questions, by the way. Chiron shook his head. He said. Kira asked. Is that all I get? Chiron said again.
I hate everything about
I don't
this.
have all day, Kira said, tapping her foot impatiently. I was 12, Chiron
He just,
started.
launches into backstory.
I know, right? I was 12, Chiron started. I was eating breakfast before I went out to feed the horses, and I heard screams. I ran outside and saw some riders murdering my parents. They didn't want me running off and telling people what they'd done, so they tied me up at my house and burned it to the ground.
Stop making it sound dramatic.
I have to!
No! You're making it, sound not bad.
Oh, believe me, it sounds bad.
Okay.
Kira was horror-struck. So you wear sunglasses because you got burned and you survived? That's one of my favorite lines in this book.
And, I love that he was in the house and it burned down, and the only place that he's, actually burned is, just around his eyes.
Oh, around his eyes?
Yeah, that's why he wears sunglasses.
Okay. It wasn't
to hide the
specified.
burns.
I thought you meant, his eyeballs got burnt and, it's too bright for him now. That's definitely where... Okay, to be fair, would that be out of line with everything else we've read?
Of course not!
That's where my mind went, because that's where I figured it was gonna go.
No, that's way more reasonable. That he would have been, partially blinded, rather than just, have a couple burns near his eyes.
Alright. Crap, I can't believe that writers would do that. They were supposed to be protecting the cities, Kira said, running her fingers through her long, wavy brown hair in bewilderment.
Gross.
I love when young people write, and they always do stuff like that.
Yeah, I ran my fingers through my long, luscious black hair.
Yeah, they always work it in random places.
At least it's not like my immortal levels. My name is what's blah 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 dementia Raven Way.
Dementia Raven Way.
Thank you. I have long black hair and black eyes or whatever.
Hi, my name is Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven Way, and I have long ebony black hair. That's how I got my name, with purple streaks and red tips that reaches my mid-back and icy blue eyes like limpid tears, and a lot of people tell me I look like Amy Lee.
Oh my god.
I knew we were missing something about the hair. I've been hunting the remaining riders down ever since. I've heard there's some in Nevada City, California, Chiron told Kira, putting his sunglasses back on and getting up. Don't go murdering them, Kira said. That's my grandma and grandpa. Well, those are the only ones left, Chiron explained. They must be the ones that killed my parents. Well, what'd these guys look like, Kira asked. Well, Chiron said, the one that seemed to be leading with a 13th girl with short and spiky brown and unbelievably shiny hair.
Okay.
Then the co-leader, or whatever you want to call it, had. Kira cut him off. Wait, did you say spiky hair? She asked him. Yeah, Chiron said. Kira began obsessively pacing back and forth. How did she... Somebody must have changed her. But why would she do that? She's a good person, she mumbled. Just then, interrupting Kira's mutterings, a girl appeared out of the forest. And okay, so on our first read-through, we debated, does the forest count as a tree or a bush? Because technically it's not out of the trees or the bushes, it's just the general foliage.
Yeah. So, unbeknownst to my 12-year-old self, this was a departure from my new character equals bush, returning character equals tree trend that for some reason becomes a thing. Because I didn't know about that either. That was something we discovered when we read the first novel.
And it's remarkably consistent, too.
It really is. Super weird. I think it's because bushes is they're spying on you, and then trees are it's cool, I'm jumping down from a tree, so I must be a returning character. Anyway,
I don't know about the cool part, but the spying on you actually kind of makes more sense.
I don't know,
well, because all of these people end up working for different organizations and betraying each other, and
yeah, it's consistent. But anyway, so we were talking about this because it's a departure from that trend, and she's just walking out of, the forest somewhere. And it's because I was trying to make this character super mysterious and something new, oh, she's not like everyone else, and we'll see that come up later.
I'm not like other girls.
I'm an oracle, super annoying, and I only return for 5 seconds later.
Who's that? Chiron asked. You expect me to know that? Kira asked. What? You're the writer. Chiron said writer like it was something to be loathed and detested. I'm Ash, said the girl. Nice to meet you, Chiron said grouchily. Ash just glared at Chiron. Why are you out here in the snow? Kira asked, just as grumpily as Chiron. Same reason as you, Ash replied. And just what would lead you to the assumption that we're roaming around in a blizzard for the same reason? Kira asked, frowning, disliking this Ash person more and more every second.
Same.
I am an oracle, Ash said eerily. I know everything.
Disgusting.
Alright, your turn.
Chapter 4. The next morning, after a freezing night in the snow, Ash was the first one up. She got out of her sleeping bag and sat on a fallen tree. 10 minutes later, Chiron rolled over, climbed out of bed reluctantly, and, having unveiled his troubled past, failed to put on his sunglasses. Ash stared at him eerily. "What's up?" he said, pulling his black trench coat over his knees. No answer. "You scare me," Chiron said flatly. "Listen, Chiron," Ash said, ignoring Chiron's earlier comment. "You know I can see the future, right?" "Right," Chiron said. "So I knew Christoph Merk was going to conjure the meteor," Ash went on. "And I knew I was going to run into you guys. I knew you weren't going to put on your sunglasses." Chiron seemed to realize what he had forgotten and frantically ran to his sleeping bag, put on the sunglasses, and rushed back to his seat. "Anyway, I've also seen in the near future that Kira will fall in love. I've seen that you will too. I've also seen that Christoph Merk is planning something bigger, a battle. And that last statement amounts to the grave fact that Kira is going to die, and there's nothing you can do to stop it." This is actually more continuity. Amazingly. So Kira does die, but not in the way that everybody thinks it's gonna happen. At this point, I was watching The Matrix, so we know a lot of this shit's taken from The Matrix. So many lines are taken from The Matrix.
The moment you say, "Oh, it's taken from The Matrix," I'm like, there's a 90% chance this sucks. And like a 10% chance it's just hilarious.
Right? As much as I love the Wachowski siblings, I just like some of the stuff that they have made.
I definitely love them. They made Jupiter Ascending.
Yes! So
they're my
wonderful.
Heroes. They are my heroes.
I fucking love that movie. It's so bad.
But I've just got to shill Jupiter Ascending for anyone here who may not have watched it. It's a travesty.
It's so bad, it's good. Anyway, I'll have that tangent. Chapter 5, it's your turn to read.
"You're lying!" Chiron shouted at Ash, loud enough so Kira stirred in her sleep, moaned, and rolled over. Ash smiled sadly, but with the slightest hint of wickedness, like she delighted in telling people bad news. "Alas," Ash said, "I am not lying. I simply say what I see. If you hate her so much, why do you care if she dies or if she doesn't?" Chiron just looked at Ash. "Do you already know what I'm going to say?" "I don't think I'd be much of an oracle if I didn't know," Ash told him. "If you answer correctly, I'll believe Kira is going to die, that you're telling the truth. If you don't answer exactly what I am about to say, then I'll know you're lying." "I suppose the real question is, how do you know you can trust me?" Ash asked knowingly, examining her perfect nails. Then she looked up and stared directly into Chiron's eyes, and he was transfixed to those incredibly deep green, almost black, eyes. She was telling him something without words. The stare said, "How, Chiron? How do you know?" Ash broke her eyes away from his. "You were about to say that you really don't care about her, that you just didn't want anyone to die," she said. "But then again, you were lying, weren't you? You do care for her." "No!" Chiron shouted through the snow. "I hate her! I hate writers!" Ash laughed. "That may be, but there's something there," she said evilly. Oh, evilly. "You two are perfect for each other. I'm going to leave. I've had enough of you. Good luck."
"I'm going to leave."
And she dematerialized into the frigid air.
I know, it's wonderful.
This is for your benefit. Chiron looked around to try and explain to himself the trick that Ash had just pulled off, but Kira got up and interrupted. "Morning," she said sleepily. Chiron glared at her. "What'd I do?" Kira asked. "Chiron, no matter how much you glare at me, no matter how much you hate me, I won't disappear," she told him. Chiron looked at the ground, though it was pretty much impossible to tell where he was looking because of the sunglasses he always wore. "Ah," he said in defeat. "You're right. Of course I'm right," Kira said. "I'm always right, except when I'm not."
Chapter 6.
Why do I, hate all of your protags?
Because
They're
horrible.
But...
No, they're literally the worst. Like, they're all terrible, gross characters. Not even they're edgy or oh, they have dark past. They're literally just, horrible. "Okay," Ryder said. "So did we ever figure out why your grandmother killed Chiron's parents?" Chiron glared at him. "You're this close," he said, holding his thumb and pointer finger about a centimeter apart. Kira put a hand on Chiron's shoulder. "It's okay. Ryder's just trying to help." Chiron shrugged her hand off, but didn't say anything. "No," Kira told Ryder. "We never finished talking about that because Ash interrupted. Speaking of Ash, where is she?" "She left," Chiron said plainly. "Good riddance," Kira said. "Your parents must have had something to do with the writers. Can you remember anything?" "I heard my dad saying he wished he'd never gotten involved with something one night when he and my mom were arguing. He said, 'I wish I'd never agreed to go to the writer,' and then I went back to bed because I hated when my parents fought." Chiron explained. "How old were your parents?" Kira asked Chiron. "I was actually adopted," Chiron said, "when I was just a little baby. They were an older couple and wanted a son because they'd never had one. They were about 60 when they died. I know that sounds weird, but it's the truth." Kira started pacing around in the snow. She said. So your dad must have been a writer, 50 years younger than my grandma at the time. So your parents weren't born when my grandma was 13, and when she went into the future to kill them, they were 60. My grandma does a lot of time traveling.
That math is just like...
I don't even want to try to figure out if that actually is logical or not. Huh, Kyron said. Interesting. Then he changed the subject. Where is Christoph Merck's house or whatever? Well, it's been changed from Washington, D.C. to Seattle, Washington for several reasons, Kira started. I don't need a history lesson, Kyron said, waving his hand dismissively. I just wanted to know where we were going. I like how I just explained that away with Kyron just not being interested. It's like in Jimmy Neutron where they're like, hey, how are we breathing in space? And then when Jimmy tries to explain, Sheen always like comes in and like starts singing something or like...
Or Cindy just tells him to shut up.
How come whenever we're in outer space, we don't gotta wear helmets? Good question, Sheen.
How are we going to get there? Kiara smiled, snapped her fingers thrice. Accordingly, 3 flying boards sped up to them. I'm falling, Kyron shouted, trying to regain his balance, but he was laughing. It was like a Peter Pan laugh, wild and carefree. Don't worry, Kira yelled back over her shoulder. You'll get used to it. Try putting your feet farther apart. Kyron took Kira's suggestion, and the flight was much easier the rest of the day, which ended in Weed, Kira and Ryder's original target. The tiny town was even tinier than the little group had expected. It was the smallest town south of Mount Shasta. That is a falsehood in real life, but whatever. I guess it is 500 years in the future, so... Whoa, Kyron exclaimed. I feel like going... This is the end, Sheriff. So, Sheriff Kyron, how's the West? Kira asked Kyron. It doesn't suit me, Sally Jane. The outlaws have started a blizzard. Yee-haw, Kyron said, sticking his thumbs in his belt loops and walking around. Put your hands up, Ryder cried, using his fingers as pretend guns. Kyron laughed that Peter Pan laugh again. This is what we were talking about last time, where it's like, why do teen writers do this?
Yeah, or like preteens. Yeah, they just have this random tangent of humor that must be hilarious to them, but like now we're grown up and we're like, what in the fresh hell is this conversation?
Hey, Kira said, I didn't know you could laugh. Kyron shrugged. Well, I can't be boring all the time. All right, Kira said, serious now. We have to find some place to sleep. Any ideas? Is there a single hotel in this place? Kyron asked. Unfortunately, no, said a voice. But you are welcome to stay at our house, said another voice. Oh, great, Kyron whispered in Kira's ear. More creepy girls. But Kira seemed interested. Show yourselves, she shouted. The 2 girls stepped out from behind a building. What are your names? Kira asked. I'm Campbell, said the taller of the 2. I'm Becca, said the other. How old are you? Kira asked. I'm a 15th, Campbell said. I'm a 14th, Becca said. We're sisters. Strange, Kira commented. You don't look anything alike. I didn't say we were twins, Becca told Kira. Kira smiled. There was one trait that could identify a writer. Their sarcasm. Except there's like 15 other traits you can identify a writer by. Their looks, they're scarily pretty.
Their shiny hair.
Their shiny hair, their eyes, their sass.
The only way to kill them is the writer punishment.
Yeah, their dog tags.
Oh yeah, the dog tags are gonna come up in a minute.
Your writers, Kira said. The very last, Campbell said, seeming to loosen up a little. I wouldn't say the very last, Kira said, taking a dog tag out of her shirt, something all writers wore for identification.
There it
Kyron
is.
tensed, being now in the presence of more than one writer. Except that he was in the presence of 2 before, because writer is a writer. Kira seemed to notice. Don't worry, Kyron. These writers are far too young to have killed your parents. They'd have to be my grandma's age. Kyron still didn't relax. Kira shook her head and rolled her eyes. This is Kyron. She introduced them. This is Ryder, and I'm Kira. Campbell and Becca nodded. Interesting names, Becca said. Any idea why it's snowing in the middle of July? Kira nodded solemnly. Christoph Merck conjured a meteor with a giant magnet. It was so massive that it knocked the Earth far enough away from the sun so that it got colder. I don't know where it hit or where it came from, but by my estimation, it'll be snowing like this forever and ever. I guess it's Christoph Merck's way of limiting choices by making it impossible to grow the crops we want, or have the animals we want.
But my estimation, forever and ever.
Very technical, Kira. Nice going. Suddenly, just as Kira finished speaking, somebody's voice blasted over every speaker, phone, radio station, and television.
This is your president speaking. As you may have noticed, it is snowing in the middle of summer. Why? Because if you are all limited to the same choices, nobody will have anything that the next person won't have. So it is for that reason that I ask you to discard all colorful clothing and don in blacks, grays, and browns, so nobody will have any reason to be teased or made fun of. It is by these guidelines that you will be living the rest of your lives. Thank you.
He got made fun of in elementary school.
That was his backstory, honestly, was that he was bullied.
How did I know?
At that moment, Campbell, Becca, and Kira, being writers, all overreacted. Maddening, Campbell exclaimed. Oh, completely, Becca agreed. Stupid president, Kira cried. Same. Kyron and Ryder exclaimed. Kyron and Ryder exchanged exasperated glances. After Becca, Campbell, and Kira calmed down a little, Kyron spoke. Now that we've all established the fact that Christoph Merck is a little off his rocker, I think we should continue on our quest. What say you, Kira? Kira nodded. I think Becca and Campbell should come along. Chiron shook his head. Absolutely not. 1 writer is enough. There's 2! We'll need all the help we can get, Kira argued. 3 is enough, Chiron said. 3 against 300. Think logically, Chiron, Kira practically yelled at him. Except, okay, obviously I wasn't thinking logically because 300 was the amount of people I thought was in the army. And I was like, 300 is a pretty big number. Probably that's reasonable. 3 against 2, Chiron corrected. Christoph Merck won't waste his precious army on us. All the more reasons to have 2 extra people, Kira negotiated. Make that 3, said an unfamiliar voice. Guess who it is? Chapter 7.
Another person? Chiron exclaimed. Who are you? Kira shouted. I'm your grandmother, answered the voice. You're not Grandma, Kira said. Or am I? Asked the voice. Are you? Campbell asked. What, do you think I'm lying? Said the voice. Kira glanced at Chiron. Writers hate lying, she told him. It's Grandma.
Another way you can identify.
That's the best solution to that conversation.
She's the only person on Earth who hates lying, so therefore...
It's Grandma! She sounds like she's like 20, Chiron commented. Maybe because I am 20, the voice said. Ever think of that? Then the voice's owner came out from a concrete wall in front of a laundromat. I like to imagine her just phasing through the wall.
She would.
When she saw Chiron, her eyes widened. You, she said, you're supposed to be dead.
A llama? He's supposed to be dead!
Yeah, weird.
Anyway. Then Kira remembered her grandma's story about her time travel. You're supposed to be dead too. Corinne laughed. That's where you're wrong. See, after the other me left with Evan and the rest, I realized something. If I died, then that meant the other me would die also. I couldn't let that happen, so I got up slowly and painfully and went to the little town's doctor's office, where I got better.
After being dismembered by a giant sloth monster.
I then proceeded to a science lab conveniently located in Weed, Oregon, which we've already decided was south of Mount Shasta.
Yeah. And weed is in California.
I pieced together a time travel potion and met up with you guys here 50 years later. She paused. Now, more importantly, Corinne said, turning to Chiron, why are you still alive? Also, I love that you have a potion for time travel. I don't think I've ever seen a potion used for that before.
Me neither, actually. That's pretty unique.
It's always like some kind of, techno device or something that you're just like, it's potion!
You can't handle my strongest potions. You better go to a cellar that sells weaker potions.
Why are you still alive? It takes more than a little fire to get rid of me, Chiron shot back. He's not a writer, is he? Corinne whispered to Kira. Please tell me you didn't change him into one. Kira shook her head. He's not, she whispered back. He's worse. He hates you. I love that hating Corinne is worse than being a writer.
There's nothing worse than Corinne.
Corinne looked appalled, then turned back to Chiron. A little fire? We burned your whole stinking house to the ground. Why, Corinne? Why did you do it? Kira asked. That was when I took orders from Mom, Corinne said, and then shrugged. I don't know. She must have gotten a report from one of the writers. Maybe when Chiron's adoptive great-grandfather got changed into a writer, and when a writer was changing him into a writer, he saw something happen. I don't know. All I can say is I know it had something to do with me, or I wouldn't have been sent to kill them.
You never find out what that was, by the way. It's never discovered.
Chiron looked hurt. So you didn't know why you were murdering innocent people, you just did it because somebody told you to? I heard you were supposed to be completely independent and rebellious, he said disdainfully. Corinne looked even more hurt than Chiron. All writers were ordered to do what they were told to do, she said in a strained voice. That was our way. It wasn't my fault. I had no idea what I was doing. I love that. Just, we were ordered to do what we were ordered to do.
I mean, if that's what you're raised as.
We were ordered to follow orders, but what if you didn't follow the order, follow orders?
None of this system is any type of sensible.
I just thought that was hilarious.
No, it really is.
You were smiling, Chiron said. You were smiling while you were mercilessly murdering my parents.
Holy shit!
Whoa,
oh
crap!
My God!
Suddenly, the last few books just became retrospectively much darker.
Now I, could see myself writing a character that's just that evil.
Oh, yeah.
But, I would have done it well, and she wouldn't have been sympathetic at all.
Yeah, well, that's normal for adults, because we've seen what the adult world is like. That's how people can be. But, when kids are writing that, you're like, that's when the teachers, start calling your mom because your journal entry is, not all sunshine and roses, and they're like, your child might be depressed. And it's like, yes, my child is depressed. My child has clinical depression.
Chapter 8. This is such an edgy chapter, oh my God.
Oh, geez, you're right.
It was a horror-struck Corinne that said, I guess writers really were brain dead. What? Kira cried through the snow, equally as petrified. You think I'm brain dead?
I love that it keeps having, they yelled through the snow or they cried through the snow.
I know.
We're in a
It's not a
blizzard. I'm pretty sure everything is through the snow.
I just had to, remind the readers that it was snowing. Have you ever realized, Corinne said intensely, that neither Kira nor me has ever said we were sorry? And if we did, we didn't really sound like we meant it. That's because we don't mean it. We don't sound like we're sorry because we really aren't sorry. We hate everyone, even ourselves. That's why we feel like we have to be hard-hearted all the time. Why we have this queer need to perfect everything, even if it's already fine. I guess we feel like we have something to prove. The unpleasant truth is that I'm not a writer anymore. Oh, Corinne, Kira said. I'm so sorry. Here it comes. Corinne shook her head in disgust. It's terrible. Nothing this week is meant to survive. It's a line from The Matrix and super edgy.
Nothing this week is meant to survive.
Kira shook her head. I'll change you back, she said. Corinne nodded like a little kid. 15 seconds later, and Corinne was back in the disdainful clarity that was being a writer. Thanks, Corinne said. It's good to be back. But you were never gone, commented Becca, who Kira had forgotten was with them. Same. I was, Corinne said through the snow. Writers aren't writers when they aren't writers. Well, Kira said, even though that didn't make any sense at all, I think we should head for Seattle.
That's also another one of my favorite lines in this.
Writers aren't writers when they aren't writers.
Yeah, it's literally just saying, a rock is not a rock if it's not a rock.
Oh, definitely, Kyron said, but what if we get caught sneaking into the White House? What if the worst should happen? Corinne laughed, taking some black leather gloves out of the pocket of her black trench coat. Let me tell you from experience, the worst always happens.
Chapter 9. So, are they coming or not? Corinne asked Kira, pointing to Campbell and Becca. Of course they're coming, Kira said. The more writers, the merrier. Kyron just glared at her. Shut up about writers before I... No can do, Kyron, Corinne said, cutting him off. Writers can only be killed a certain way, and you have no clue how to... Or do I, Kyron said, cutting Corinne off. I saw the way you killed my dad. And he had some acquaintance with the, do you know it has to be done by a super writer, Corinne asked him, or a machine in my doubles instance. I didn't, but you just told me, didn't you, Kyron said. They're both equal levels of idiot.
I hate them so much.
This is literally just a conversation of two people battling stupidity levels. All right, Kira said, cutting them both off. Enough already. But Corinne and Kyron, you needed help naming people. But Corinne and Kyron just stood and huffed and puffed at each other.
That's what I was picturing, pretty much.
Aggressive, gorilla noises at each other.
Breathing.
Like when gorillas get mad and they're like, I hate humans, Corinne yelled. I hate writers, Kyron shouted. Jerk, Corinne told him. Murderer, Kyron spat at her. Corinne winced. She started. Kyron put on a look of triumph at trouncing the famous Corinne. I am warning you now, Kyron, Corinne threatened. You will never be rid of me as long as you live. That seemed to snap things into perspective for Kyron. Chapter 10. I love how these chapters end at random places, and there's no, sense of cliffhanger, or... occasionally there was, when Corinne appeared, but,
Exactly. That's pretty much what I thought, chapters where it's one event happens, and then it's dramatic, and then it ends. The journey on the boards was thankfully in complete silence, with Corinne, the more experienced board rider, about 100 feet ahead of the rest of them, and Campbell and Becca in the rear. Going at amazing speeds, up to 80 miles per hour! Corinne darted through trees like she'd been doing it her whole life. After about an hour of riding, Kira caught up to her. Look, she said, but Corinne interrupted. I don't want to hear it, she said, over the wind and snow. Fine then, Kira said, and changed the subject. We're about halfway there. I knew that, Corinne said flatly. May I be frank? Who's Frank? Kira said, trying to make a joke about the howling wind and snow. That's that's the second time I've said that in this page. Over the wind and snow.
Drinking game.
Where did you pick up Kyron? She asked with contempt, slowing her board a little so Kira could keep up. Actually, he found us, Kira told Corinne. Yeah, whatever, Corinne said. Either way, he's quite an unpleasant child, and I'm only saying it in that context because I'm afraid if I don't, I will end up cursing. Don't tell me you've never cussed before. You're the meanest person I know, Kira said. Thanks, Corinne said, drawing out the A sarcastically. I hope that was supposed to be a compliment. It was, Kira said, smiling. Corinne didn't reply. Kyron cut up to ask Kira a question. Corinne made a face and sped off, pushing her board up to 100 miles per hour. Kira watched her go in admiration. Kyron made a face of disgust and turned to Kira. How do these board things work? He asked her. There's lifting fans on the bottom. They're so powerful that if you stuck your finger in one of them, it would slice it clean off. You wouldn't feel any pain and there wouldn't be any blood, Kira answered. That's not a thing! Interesting, Kyron said. So, I was wondering, what's Corinne's history? What made her, so tough and everything? Not that I care or anything. No, Kira said, of course you don't care. Well, I'm not really sure how she got so tough. All I can say is that she's been through more than you or me can imagine. Since she time traveled to get here, she lost Evan, and that must have taken its toll. All of a sudden, in front of them, Corinne swerved off and disappeared into the trees. Where'd she go? Kyron asked, looking around. Kira leaned as close to Kyron as a person could go while flying at 30 miles per hour. Expect her to come up from behind in about 10 seconds, Kira whispered. But instead of coming from behind as Kira predicted, Corinne swerved about 10 feet in front of them, only this time she was flying backwards. Show off, Kyron muttered to himself. Are you talking about me? Corinne asked accusingly. Of course not, Kira lied. Yeah, right, Corinne said. Spit it out. I wasn't saying anything, Chiron said snobbishly, sticking his nose up in the air. Oh, you weren't? Corinne asked. Then why did you ask why I was so tough? Chiron shook his head in disbelief. You were a mile away. How did you hear that? Makes you want to be a writer, doesn't it, Chiron? Corinne asked, and went back to flying in the normal fashion. Forward. That was cruel, Corinne, Chiron said, offended. Get used to it, Corinne said coldly. It's who I am.
Edgy!
So edgy.
Chapter 11. They reached Washington at midnight. Kira had forced them to keep flying. The group landed just before entering a little town. They trudged into a little park sleepily. Just as they were setting up their sleeping bags, Corinne pulled $200 bills out of her pocket. Think these will get us into a hotel? Corinne asked, waving the bills in the air like she just won the golden ticket. Maybe, Kira said, nodding. Just maybe.
Why did she wait until they'd all got their sleeping bags out to be like, oh, by the way.
Hello, may I help you? The girl at the front desk said, yawning. She was wearing a brown suit with a name tag that said Brighton. Cameo.
The name of his Dizzo. Yeah, I know.
Hi, Corinne said, also yawning. Can we have 2 rooms, please? Your name? Brighton asked, taking out a pad of paper and a pencil. Corinne looked nervously at Kira. Do you think she'll turn us in? She whispered. Kira shook her head. It's Corinne Brophy, Corinne said. If that's an issue, why don't you use a fake name?
Yeah, and why would you ask your, 16-year-old great-granddaughter?
Right in front of the person. It'll be $150, Brighton said sleepily. Corinne put the $200 bills on the desk. Out of 200, Brighton said, taking 5 tens out of the cash register. I'm supposed to inform you of the traveling carnival that is in town. It features rides, a live show with people with amazing powers, and great food. Tickets are $3 a person, Brighton continued in a bored voice. Oh, I screwed that up.
Yeah, it's okay.
It features rides, a live show with people with amazing powers, and great food. That should be interesting, Kira said. We should go. Corinne rolled her eyes. Yeah, okay, here's $18 out of the 50. Thanks, Brighton said. Wait a second, what did you say your name was? It's almost like you shouldn't have asked if you should use another name in front of this person. Corinne Brophy, Corinne repeated. I heard you died, Brighton said. Of old age. Do I look like I'm an old lady, Corinne said. No, Brighton said. That's just what I heard. Well, you heard wrong. I'll take the keys to our rooms, please, Corinne said, holding out her hand to receive the cards. Brighton handed her the room keys, and the group proceeded to floor 2. Ryder and Chiron can have a room to themselves, since there's 2 beds in each room. Becca and Campbell can share a bed, Kira can sleep in the other bed, and I'll sleep on the floor. Kira will need to give me her sleeping bag first, of course, Corinne said. Aw, Kira said, how compassionate. Yeah, whatever, Corinne said. I'm not a big fan of poofy things, that's all. Uh-huh, Kira said slyly. Sure. What? I'm not lying, Corinne said. I hate lying. I don't think I've ever lied before in my life. Okay, maybe once or twice. Kira didn't say anything, climbed into bed. Whew, what a day. I'm looking forward to the carnival tomorrow. But everyone was already asleep. Yeah, screw you, Kira. No one wants to talk to you.
Chapter 12. They all slept in amazingly late. It was 10 o'clock before Corinne even got out of bed. That is not amazingly late. I mean, that's my late. She trudged to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. She leaned out of the door and, not caring if she woke anyone up, said, Did anyone bring a brush? Kira moaned. It's in my backpack, she said, and rolled over. Thanks, Corinne said, and walked over to where Kira's backpack was sat on a chair. She dug around in it, and after a while she pulled out an old wooden brush. She quickly brushed her hair. She picked up a binder that told about the hotel. Free continental breakfast, it said, in all caps. I'll be right back, Corinne announced. Bring me back a bagel, Kira said sleepily. Me too, Campbell said. Blueberry muffin, announced Becca. So Corinne headed downstairs to the free breakfast. She looked around. There was a couple sitting at a table with a toddler, the mom trying to get the toddler to eat a piece of toast without smearing it on his hair. There was a group of soccer players that looked really disappointed, probably because their soccer game had been canceled because of the snow. Oh, actual ramifications.
That's your biggest concern right now.
A 14th scanning the counter of food for something. There was a girl about Corinne's age trying to get her little sister to drink her juice. Corinne walked up to them. I always hated orange juice too, she said. The girl looked up. Yeah, she's pretty stubborn. Corinne laughed. What's your name? What? I like how she's just going up to people and making friends.
Corinne, who hates everyone and everything.
Yeah. Jacqueline Cardinal, said the girl. You? It's Corinne, said Corinne. Wow, said the girl. I've heard about you. You're that girl that freed all the cities. That's me, Corinne said. But that was 60 years ago. You should be really, really old, said Jacqueline. Time travel, Corinne said. Promise not to tell anyone. We're on the run. From whom? Jacqueline asked with interest. Well, not exactly on the run, Corinne explained. We're trying to reverse the snow. Christoph Merck apparently magnetized a meteor and hit Earth so it went farther away from the sun, so that's why it snowed. Wow, said Jacqueline. Amazing. Corinne nodded. We're going to the car.
Not to tell anyone. We're on the run, she says to a toddler. That's still sinking in. Someone asked later, do you see anyone who looks like this go by? Yeah, she said her name's Corinne Brophy. But not to tell anyone because she's on the run.
Oh my god.
Good job.
Corinne nodded. We're going to the carnival today. Are you? Oh yeah, Jacqueline exclaimed. I guess we'll see you there. Corinne smiled. Okay, but I gotta get back to my room. Got some hungry people I need to get back to. Alright, see you at the carnival, said Jacqueline. Corinne waved back over her shoulder as she turned to walk down the hallway. So
Wait
unnecessary.
a second. I just realized. There's a carnival. The Earth just got hit by a meteor that pushed it away from the sun. They're in a perma-winter, and there's a carnival!
Yep.
Why is there a carnival?
Who knows, dude?
These carnies are like, bundle up, we're still working.
The cold never bothered me anyway.
I wish I had that work ethic.
What is that? Kyron asked in amazement. Kiera squinted at the sign above the tent. It says, see the amazing flying girl. Want to go check it out? Everyone agreed to go look. A man stood outside the tent. See the amazing flying girl, he yelled in a booming voice. Show starts in 10 minutes. Don't be late if you want to be amazed. So they headed inside to get their seats. They could hear talking behind the stage curtains. Some music began playing, and people filed in from outside. 3 minutes later, a man came out from behind the curtains. You will not believe your eyes when you look upon the amazing sight of the amazing flying girl, the man said.
You will not believe your eyes when this girl goes and flies.
Oh my god.
I couldn't resist, it hit me.
Oh my god. I present to you, Zahara, the amazing flying girl. The man went backstage and came back out with what looked like a giant bird perch. Then a perfectly normal girl came out from backstage and sat on the giant perch like a bird. The music that had been playing stopped, and Zahara eyed the whole audience like a hawk staring down its prey. Everyone sat transfixed in that feral glare, and 2 seconds later, 2 huge brown and white spotted wings appeared behind Zahara. She flapped them twice and effortlessly lifted from the perch and hovered perfectly in midair. Everyone applauded, and the show was over! Corinne leaned over
Worth the money!
Corinne leaned over towards Kiera. I don't know if you noticed or not, but that girl had a chain on her ankle. You know what that means? No, what? Kiera whispered. She's a prisoner.
It means you're an idiot!
She's forced to perform, Corinne said. This also leads me to the supposition, what? That all the people who perform here are captives. Don't tell me, Kiera said. You want to free them all, don't you? That's my methodology, Corinne says, standing up. Got a problem with that? I love how Corinne just, immediately she's like, I must free them. Like, anybody.
I love how Corinne's suddenly,
altruistic.
ate a thesaurus.
Oh, yeah.
Do not ever call me a thesaurus.
Supposition and methodology. A minute ago she was, arguing with a teenager.
Kiera shook her head. I think it's a great idea.
Chapter 13. Somehow Corinne had managed to counterfeit a couple of worker identification cards
in the past 5 minutes.
Kiera by acquiring a job from the man who had introduced Zahara, saying they wanted to work. Are you counterfeiting the cards if you get them from someone who says, here, have a job?
Don't worry about it.
Together, Kiera and Corinne went backstage, saying they were going to help clean up. While Kiera pretended to be cleaning up, Corinne snuck farther into the back of the huge tent. She turned a corner, and there were about 50 cages lined up and stacked up on top of each other. Subtle. Corinne looked around for a keyring, and after finding one, she unlocked the first cage. A little girl, she couldn't have been more than a 6, climbed out. Why are you doing this? The little girl asked. Kids should never be kept in cages, Corinne answered. Pour one out for America!
Oh my god.
Anyway, in case anyone wonders, we are filming this on July 6, 2018, in the midst of an immigration crisis in America.
Oh my god, I really did allegory.
Oh man, you
without
really did
knowing about it.
You really did just foreshadow modern day America.
Yeah, I really did. Just a dystopia where children are kept in cages and there's an evil president and there's climate change.
We've got to make a potion to go back in time to kill young you so this cannot come to pass.
Yes, please.
Sorry.
I will help you kill young me.
Tears rolling down your face. You just hold a harpoon gun to 12-year-old you's forehead.
Oh
You're just it's better this way. You start to disintegrate as you pull the trigger.
I don't want to
go. Staring into your young self's eyes.
I don't feel so good.
I don't know why it was a harpoon gun.
I don't know, man.
I've been playing too much Terraria.
I know. I'm picturing the one from Terraria too. That's how
you kill psychic children, is you just harpoon them.
Oh my god, I hate this conversation.
Oh, we're going to hell. Anyway, kids should never be kept in cages, Corinne answered, moving on to the cage that was stacked on top of the little girl's cage.
Fish aren't meant to be in a box, kid. It does things to you.
Why are you stuck in here? Corinne asked the little girl as she fumbled with the lock in the frigid air. That's oddly accurate. Why did you get that one thing right?
I don't know.
I'm a gecko girl, said the little girl. I'm Micah. Nice to meet you, Corinne said as the lock clicked and she opened the cage door. A boy with scaly skin climbed out. Who are you? He asked. I'm Corinne, Corinne said. I'm Zion, said the boy, who looked to be about 13. And so it continued throughout the line of cages, ending with Zahara's cage. You were in the audience today, Zahara said, clambering out of the cage and stretching out her wings. I know, I'm breaking you out of here, Corinne told her, and then turned back to the group of bizarre-looking creatures before her. Oh my god, rude!
She's so horrible!
Don't be afraid, you won't have to live in cages anymore. And so the strange people that Corinne had just freed followed her to where Kiara was still sweeping the floor. You are no longer prisoners, Kiara told them. You can go. They all cheered and ran out the back door of the tent. Well, Corinne said, examining her perfect nails, that was quite an adventure. It really wasn't. That took like 3 minutes. She turned back to Kiara. There was another person there. Why didn't you go with the others? Corinne asked him. I wish to join you on your quest, said the young man. Kiara looked him over. You look perfectly normal to me. Why were you locked up in the cages? The boy made an evil face. Look again, he said. The lights went off, and the hanging lights flickered and popped. Dumbledore?
It's a Stardust reference.
Who are you? Look again.
Corinne put on a look of horror. Do you know what this is? She whispered to Kiara. No, Kiara whispered back. Good, Corinne said, but I'm going to tell you anyway. It's called a swiper. Oh my god.
Swiper, no swiping!
She makes that reference later on.
Oh, good. Okay, at least it's not just me being trash. It's called a swiper. 10 times smarter, faster, and tougher than the average writer. Good thing I'm not the average writer, huh? So, Kiara hissed. So just wait till Chiron sees how nice I seem compared to him, Corinne said, then turned to the young man. What's your name, kid? Wyatt, said the swiper. Wyatt? What? This is W-A, a bunch of Y's, A, and a bunch of T's. I don't know how I'm supposed to pronounce that phonetically. Wyatt. Wyatt, Corinne said with an Old West accent. Yeah, like Wyatt Earp, Kiara said, elbowing Corinne.
Are you putting Corinne it into a reader?
Yes, I am.
I knew it.
You noticed my pause. I was like, whoops, I'm not on the document anymore.
Yep.
Corinne laughed. Wyatt just stood there like, how could they be this way to a swiper? Like he never had this happen to him. Corinne stopped laughing. How old are you? I'm a 20th, Wyatt said through clenched teeth. All right, Wyatt, Corinne said, you can come. But be warned, you haven't been through half the stuff I've been put through. You might be 10 times smarter, faster, and tougher than the average writer, but you aren't nowhere near. Whoa!
Whoa!
You aren't nowhere near as fast and smart as tough as I am. Ain't never got no brain or nothing.
I think what I was doing with the Wyatt thing with like 15 Ys was like, you know in Treasure Planet, of course you do. You know in Treasure Planet where he's like, Bones?
Bones? Bones?
I think it was like she's trying to like sound out his name. I don't know.
Who should I use? Gabriella, Sharon, Amanda, Tracy, Ryan, Tim, Susan, Mike, or Rod?
Way I.
Way I.
Try Tim.
Way I.
And Susan.
Way I.
These are all wonderful. I love how they're all different. Try Rachel's.
Way I.
Way I.
Way I. Peter.
Way yet.
Way All right, listeners.
And that was actually the end of the chapter. All right, so that was way it out there.
Thank you for listening to the Retrospection section. Join us next time when Corinne, Kiara, Chiron, and 15 other people we don't care about.
And way it.
And way it, who is actually Evan, face off with the evil president. Corinne's brother Otto comes back for the 18th time. Someone dies. Someone important. Tune
in next time to find out who died.
Thank you.
Till next time.
Good night.